So I have beaten a ton of really freaking hard games. Some of those games people consider to be some of the hardest games of all time. As a matter of fact, I've done 4 videos about it where I've covered 32 of these games. But I've never put them on a list or compared them to each other in terms of their difficulty. So let's just do that right now. Let's make a tier list of all of the hardest games I've ever played that I've covered on this channel. Hey guys, I'm RNGGAMER. I play all my games randomly, and let's just dive right in. Regardless of where these games fall on this tier list, note, they are all hard. Every one of these games is a lot harder than your average game. We're comparing apples against apples here, not apples against all the food in the grocery store, okay? All right, so let's make this tier list. All the way at the bottom, we're gonna put I suck, but maybe you don't. Those are for games that were hard for me, but maybe weren't that difficult for a general audience. Above that, we're gonna put butt puckered, but possible. It'll pucker your butt, but you can do it if you practice. Right above that is controller smashing difficult. No normies allowed. No normies, man. These are only for the hardcore gamers. This isn't for the casual crew. The casual crew can't play these games. Above that, we have the nobody's even gonna believe you beat it category. This is so high up, no one will believe you. Your friends won't believe you, your parents won't believe you. They'll call you a liar at Christmas. It doesn't matter. We know we did it, right? And then up at the very tippy top of the tier list, we have devote your life to it and still fail anyway. These are the games that are so hard that you could spend an eternity working on them and still just not succeed. Some of these games, and I'm not exaggerating here, I bet there are less than like 100 people living on the earth right now that currently have the skills to beat these games at this exact moment. Some of them I've beaten. I cannot dive into them right now and just beat them, okay? It would take me weeks of practice to do it again. So let's go in. We're gonna start at the beginning from the very first game in the very first video I did in this series, the hardest games I've ever played. The very first game we played was a super hardcore platformer called Super Meat Boy. Very difficult, very challenging, a game not made for the normal crowd. Where does it go? Obviously, it's gonna go in the no normies allowed tier. You can do it if you're a real gamer. If you're not a real gamer, I don't think any amount of practice is gonna get you through Super Meat Boy. Next up, we have the black sheep of the Zelda series. I've never beaten this game. I always struggled with it, but everybody in the comments let me know how bad I was, and after playing it a little bit and reviewing it, you were right. It's the Adventures of Link. How hard is it? Well, it's a butt-puckering experience. So let's put it in not the bottom tier, but right up above that. It's tricky, it's tough. You might need a little bit of a guide. Once you get into the swing of it, it's not any harder than your average Nintendo game. It's difficult based on its esoteric nature, not the moment-to-moment gameplay. So I think that's a good spot for it. Butt puckered, but possible. The Contra series is unbelievably difficult, and the most I've ever struggled with one is with Contra Hardcore on the Sega Genesis. It's hard, but you can learn to do it. Once you know where to stand, you can avoid most of the shots. It's more of a puzzle game. It's tough and it will require some commitment from the gamer. I think that puts it into the no normies allowed category. Ikaruga is one of my favorite games of all time, and it's considered to be one of the hardest games of all time. Now, you can make this game as impossible as you want. You can make it the hardest game in the world. We're judging it on normal difficulty with trying to get a high score, but not getting like a perfect chained score, okay? Just a good job with it, but beating the game in one credit, which is, I mean, it's an arcade game. That's what you're supposed to do. Otherwise, you could just feed quarters into it and just beat the game automatically. So playing it the right way, the way it was intended, but not mastering the game, Ikaruga is definitely squarely in the people won't believe you. Just beating the game on easy is really hard. Normal is, that's above and beyond. I can beat it on normal. People do not believe me. So that's where it needs to go. Next up, we have one of the hardest games of all time. Literally, considered by many people to be that way. It's a shoot 'em up. It's one of the hardest shoot 'em ups. It's Musgihimesama Futari. Now, there are 3 modes of this game. There's normal, then like insane, and then ultimate. We're just judging it on really any of them. Ultra mode is like beyond the stars difficult. Insane and normal are about the same, actually. They're just different play styles. So we're gonna judge it on that, and I'm gonna put it in the devote your life to it that will still probably fail. I spent months practicing this game day after day. I had a freaking notebook where I kept track of my progress on every segment of the game. If it wasn't for the Xbox 360 re-release of this that lets you practice every section of every level, I don't think I would have been able to 1 credit clear Musgihimesama in my whole life, maybe. It's that hard. And on Ultra mode, forget about it. We're not even gonna consider that. That might be one of the hardest gaming experiences that has ever existed. I don't know, there's maybe just a handful of people in the world that can do it. I think that this is all the way at the top, even then. Even with the normal mode, it's all the way at the top. There was a time in my life where this next game was my favorite game of all time, and it held that position for like 10 years till the most recent update of it caused it to just crash and burn and fall out of like the top 20. Originally, this game was made in Flash. That's the damn dishwasher. Good luck, Chris the editor. Sorry about the dishwasher. What was I talking about? The Binding of Isaac, dude, was originally made in Flash, and it ran at like 10 frames a second. If you've never seen The Binding of Isaac, it's a twin-stick shooter mixed with the exploration from the dungeons of the original Legend of Zelda. And the bullets, they didn't move across the screen towards your character, they like flashed in and out of existence. It was so hard to judge. But you can get random items, considering it's a roguelite, that will give you a boost to the game, and you can mitigate the crappy mechanics of the game and the poor optimization of it to make yourself overpowered, and you can get good at it. So I think that the Flash Binding of Isaac is in the no normies allowed tier. The version that came after that, the remake Rebirth, is one below that, like in butt puckered. I think that's fair. I struggled with Xcom 2 so much that I had to restart the game like 2 times. I put 60 hours into it and was never able to make much progress in it. I'm just too dumb. I couldn't figure out how to manage the crap outside of the combat, like building your base and the timing elements of all that. I couldn't get it. I couldn't get it. But so many people were like, XCOM 2, I blew through that. And so many other people were like, man, I struggled with that too and couldn't do anything. I guess it's you're just good at it or you're not. Meaning we're gonna put it in the I suck, but maybe you don't. At the bottom, because for some people they say it was the easiest thing ever. Like, just get grenade launchers and just blow everybody up. Well, it never occurred to me, dude. I just did melee everything. I was an idiot. My fault, not yours. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm still getting over that pneumonia. Now we're to the game everybody wants to see. The quintessential hard game that everybody loves to talk about. It was the first game mentioned in the second video of the series, and it's flippin' Battletoads. Everybody talks about how hard Battletoads is, and Battletoads is hard, but it's not hard all the time. It's got a lot of really challenging sections, but most of the game is pretty manageable. You just can't get past these spikes in difficulty. But someone can jump in and play Battletoads for, 10 minutes before they get to the turbo tunnel and have some fun with it. So it is playable by like a general community. And I think because of that, it knocks it down from that top level. I think Battletoads is squarely in the people won't believe you category. I've beaten Battletoads. I said I beat Battletoads in that video, nobody believed me. But you can do it, you can beat Battletoads. You just have to practice like 7 or 8 sections of the game and basically memorize what's gonna happen, and the rest of it, you can just button mash your way through it. This next game I played co-op with my wife. It was made by Larian Studios, the people that made Baldur's Gate 3, last year's game of the year. My wife and I, we just, our brains don't work the right way to play computer RPGs. We just couldn't figure it out. We felt underpowered and lost the whole time, and like we were at a disadvantage, and it just never stuck with us. We beat the game, but we had to like look up every single combat encounter to figure out what to do. It's Divinity Original Sin 2, and this is 100%, without a doubt, more than any game on this list in the I suck, but maybe you don't tier. So many people agreed with us and were like, man, I struggled through that, and everybody else was like, I beat it with 1 character, and you can use 4. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I just suck. That's how it goes, man, I just suck. Maybe you don't. The Adventures of Bayou Billy is a notorious game on the NES, and I mentioned that I never knew any of my friends that beat it when we were growing up. Even though we could beat like Battletoads and Contra and all these hard games, no one made much progress in The Adventures of Bayou Billy. The truth is, it isn't really harder than those other games. It's just more tedious and boring, and you get tired of playing it because the American version of the game, they like doubled the health of every enemy in the game. So if you rented the game, you couldn't beat it over a weekend and you had to go out and buy it, which that's how everybody ended up with their copy of The Adventures of Bayou Billy. Anyway, it's hard. It's more frustrating and annoying than anything, but it's definitely in that no normies allowed. Like your average person is not gonna have the tenacity to go through and actually beat the freaking Adventures of Bayou Billy. Hell, I didn't. I never beat it. I know I could. I could probably sit down and beat it tonight, but it'd take me like 3 hours or something. I just don't wanna do it. I don't wanna hit the controller that much, man. I got other stuff I gotta do. I gotta make this video. This next game is my favorite game in the whole series. I love it. I hope they make a sequel. It's by FromSoft. I said by FromSoft instead of from FromSoft. It sounded like a psychopath, but it's Bloodborne. I love Bloodborne. Usually when I play Souls games, I turtle up with a big shield and armor and just try to tank everything. You can't do that in Bloodborne. You have to parry, you have to dodge, you have to play tactfully. Tacticfully? Tactfully means you have a lot of tact, not a lot of tactics. Tacticfully. Tactically. Tactically. That's it. That's the word, tactically. You gotta play it tactically. There we go. Anyway, I had a hard time with that and I struggled with it, but millions of people have beaten Bloodborne. Okay, it's hard. It's hard for anybody, but I think anybody can play it a little bit, but only chosen gamers can actually beat Bloodborne. I think it's in the no normies allowed. Just like Bayou Billy. They're right there together. I'd put them together. You can do it, but do you have the patience to do it? This next game I also played with my wife. We got stuck on the first screen of this game and spent all night working on it and could not get out of it. We watched a video where a guy explained how to be good at this game, and he was like, basically just cheese your super tact the whole time. I don't want to do that. There's so many people out there told me they beat this game when they were like 6 years old and it was easy. Maybe there was something I didn't know about it. I did a little bit of research about it, and it turns out that it is hard, but it's one of those kind of like tedious games that you can work your way through it, like The Adventures of Bayou Billy. It's Double Dragon 3 on the NES. And just like Bayou Billy, just like Bloodborne, I think it's in that no normies allowed category. Most people will want to play it, but only a handful of people will actually want to finish it. Me included. I'm in the want to play it, not want to finish it. I don't want to finish it, I don't care. I just saw what game is next on this list. We're gonna need another tier all the way at the top, beyond the top tier, and we're gonna call it, this game is f***ing impossible. Because this game is. All right, this is another shoot 'em up. It's called Pink Sweets. The only way you can beat this game is to glitch it out to get infinite lives. People play this game competitively, and they play it competitively by glitching it out and getting infinite lives. As far as I know, it took 20 years before somebody beat this game legitimately, and they just basically got lucky. And I think this game has been 1 credit cleared twice, ever, in the history of the game. And I'm talking about the arcade version. This game was designed to steal your money. There was actually no way to really succeed. That crap about getting the infinite lives, they ended up patching that out later, by the way, okay? So this game actually is impossible. There's only 2 people in the world that have ever beaten it without just feeding money into the machine. So, tippy top. There's nothing harder than Pink Sweets. Now, if you get Pink Sweets on the Xbox 360, there's an arrange mode, that's a remix. You can beat that. That's down there in like the people won't believe you category, but the arcade version, literally freaking impossible. Just don't even try. Hardest game I know of, I think. I think that might be the top. We'll wait and see. Keep watching this video. There might be something up there with it. Japan loves their freaking hard games. They love them. And they love their RPGs. So the fact that there's a tactical RPG that came out on the PS4 and it was so freaking hard that they had to patch the game to make it a lot easier blows me away. I can't think of another time that's ever happened with any other game in Japan. And that game is Natural Doctrine. Completely unfair, long, 2-hour-long battles, where if you mess up a single time, you have to restart the entire battle, and you will mess up because enemies spawn out of nowhere, they attack you when you don't know they're gonna attack. You basically have to memorize every step of every single battle in the entire game and do that over and over again, and you can't even save in the middle of the battles. And the game's like 60 hours long. It's gotta be the hardest RPG ever made. I mean, it just has to be. I can't imagine, I've never heard of one that's even as close as being as hard as Natural freaking Doctrine, whatever. People won't believe you if you beat it. There are people online that say they beat it. I don't believe them. I did not get close, and I put some time into it. This next game's from a series that looks really childish, but is one of the most white-knuckle, hardcore series in terms of the coordination you need in the entire gaming world, and it's Super Monkey Ball. And I'm talking about the version they put on the Nintendo Switch, which is Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania. That's it. It's like a remix of Super Monkey Ball 1 and 2 put together, but they changed the physics engine in the controls. And the controller on the Switch is not good for Super Monkey Ball, and the physics and the camera movement they put in ruined the game. I watched a video of the world record holder in speedrunning Super Monkey Ball 2, and he couldn't even beat some of the early levels in the Switch version because they screwed the physics up so much. Now they did patch it a little bit, made it a little bit better, but not a bunch. And if you beat this whole thing on all the difficulties, it is definitely in the people will not believe you. I almost got there on the hardest levels. I just could not do it. It made my daughter cry, her trying to play it. And I spent countless hours working on it and just could not get the camera and the physics to work. I believe some people out there did it, but I don't know any. We have another game from the Contra series. This is the first handheld game we've talked about, and it's Contra 4. And what killed me about this one is you play it and the display is between the two screens on the Nintendo DS. And you have to focus on the bottom screen and the top screen, and there are bullets coming from both screens. See this hinge right here, this no man's land between the two screens? Well, when a bullet comes down from the top, it actually disappears behind this. It's not like this screen is touching this screen. It's like there's invisible space between it. And there were so many times I was jumping up from the bottom screen to the top screen that I would hit a bullet that was like hidden in this area that I didn't know was there. And I just couldn't get used to it. It's a no normies allowed kind of game. And in this game, I was a normie. I beat it. But it was way harder for me than it should have been. People should have gotten used to that thing with the two screens. I just couldn't. I just could not get used to it. My brain's too smooth. There's a lot of shoot 'em ups on this list, okay? There's some of the hardest games ever made. I mean, just without a doubt. Let's talk about another one. It's a classic one from when I was like a baby. It's the original R-Type, and this game is hard. It is a memorizer. You need to memorize every section of every single level and string it all together. It's a lot to remember. It's like memorizing like 1,000 digits of pi. They give you everything you need to know. 3.14159764569696969696969 you know, as we all know. But the fact that you just have to like execute that perfectly with no mistakes is so hard. It's just so hard. I think it's squarely in the people won't believe you category, just without a doubt. There's no doubt about it. Up next is a game that people bring up all the flipping time when they talk about hard games. It's tough, but it's mainly just frustrating, kind of like Bayou Billy, but it's not even as hard as that. It's The Lion King. Yeah, you got the part where the monkeys throw you around. You got the part where you're being chased by the warthogs. Something's chasing you, I can't remember. The platforming's a little clunky, but really there's just a couple of stages that are a little tricky. They're not even that hard. You'll eventually get them if you spend enough time with them. It's just like putting in that time, but the moment-to-moment gameplay of this game isn't that bad. Yeah, if you rented it over the weekend from Blockbuster, you probably weren't gonna beat it, but if you had a week, you're good to go. It's not that bad. I would say it's in the butt puckered but possible category. Just put in a little bit of time, you'll be okay. And up next is probably the strangest game on the list. It's kind of in the Shin Megami Tensei series, which is, you know, part of the Persona series, or the Persona series is part of the Shin Megami Tensei series. Except this isn't an RPG. Instead, it's a hellacious nightmare fuel-filled dream sequence tower platforming puzzle game. There you go, that was concise. That was exactly what I wanted to get across. Where like dead babies climb and chase you and stuff. It's tense, it's hard, but you can learn to do it. It's not too bad, and you can retry all you want and memorize the stages. It's more of an experience than it is really difficult. I think anybody who put in the time could beat Catherine. It's definitely in that butt puckered tier, definitely. The butt puckering mainly comes from being chased in this game. Well, we have another NES game here. There's an old saying, when they talk about difficulty and they say something is NES hard, they're not lying. Most of those games were pretty challenging, and this is one of them. It's a classic, difficult game on the series. It's Ninja Gaiden, and it is tough. What makes it tough is the positioning of the enemies. They're always put in like the most impractical spots, just the spots where you would naturally land, and they respawn infinitely. And that makes the game really hard. But much like these games, if you memorize where everything is and you learn the tricks and you don't die on the last boss, which sends you back to the beginning of the 6th world, you can do it. It's tough. It's a no normies allowed kind of game. The hardcore gamer can knock out Ninja Gaiden, but I don't think your average person off the street could beat it like, you know, in a month of trying or something like that. I think that's fair. No normies allowed on Ninja Gaiden. Everybody's welcome to play it. You're just not going to see that cutscene at the end. Now, I've talked a lot about games like Battletoads, where the moment-to-moment gameplay is not that hard, but there are these huge difficulty spikes. Well, this game is just almost impossible right from the onset, and it stays that way. Just surviving 30 seconds in this game is like, you know, the greatest thing that has ever happened. I don't even know if you can beat it. It just goes forever. It's super exciting. It's super fun. It is super hard. It is super Hexagon. Now, I'm not sure, like I said, I'm not sure if you can even beat this game. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. I don't know. You do unlock new levels, but if you made it more than a minute in this game, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Somebody told me what the world record was and it was like 2 minutes or something like that. Anyway, it's in the I don't believe you category. People will not believe that you're good at this game. It is really hard for a game that has 2 freaking buttons to press. This next game's getting kind of hard to find. I played it on the Nintendo Switch, but I think it might be out on a few other consoles. You can definitely get it on Steam. But it's really just a boss rush mode, and it's called Furi. And what makes it difficult is that each boss has like several phases, and the phases are all very different from each other. You kind of have to be on your toes. It is tricky, but it's not undoable. It's just a little bit of practice. I knocked it out in an afternoon or a couple of days. I think most other people could too. Furi, while it is a little white knuckle there, or a better way to put it is, it's butt puckering. It's a butt puckering experience. You'll be tense the whole time you play, but you won't feel at any point like you're not gonna succeed. You can do it. This next game I hate. Most people hate this game. It's really annoying, it's really frustrating. When you die, it takes away all your power-ups, it takes away all your items and stuff and puts you back at the very beginning of the game. Now, you've gained the knowledge of where everything is up to this point, and like, you've unlocked doors and stuff, you've made a little bit of progress, but it's just so boring to like do it again, you don't want to do it. So, Fester's Quest, and that's the game we're talking about, which I forgot to mention. Don't hold that against me. You can see it on screen, I can't. I'm staring at a wall. Fester's Quest is a I suck but maybe you don't game. I know some people that really like this game. I know most people don't. Everybody's right. Maybe you love it. I could not make much progress in it. I just couldn't. I don't know if it was a willpower thing or it was a skill thing. We'll chalk it up to both. Needless to say, I was happy when I was done. All right, we're to the last shoot 'em up on the list, I promise. This is considered to be one of the best of all time. It came out in the arcades, then they put it out on the DS, then they put it out on the PS3, but the definitive edition is on the PS4, and it is called Ketsui. Unbelievably difficult shoot 'em up with a risk-reward system where you have to get right up in the enemy's face and blast them to get more points, to earn more extra lives, to have a chance of succeeding. And playing this game on normal is no joke. It is really hard. It's considered to be, by many arcade aficionados out there, is one of the hardest shoot 'em ups ever made, and I agree with that 100%. On the hardest difficulty, God tier level, right? But on normal difficulty, it's definitely one of those devote your life to it, but still fail kind of things. The PS4 version has great training modes. If there's any way you're ever able to train yourself up to do it, that's the way to do it. But that would take, honest to God, years. You would have to practice hours a day for months and months and months to even have a chance. So, good luck if you ever want to do that. If someone out there ever decides to go down and play this list of games, I'm the only person who's ever done it. I'm probably the only person on the face of the earth that has played all 32 of these games, I think. Maybe there's someone else out there. If there is, find them for me. I'd love to have a chat with them. I'll buy you a Capri Sun. We can sit down and have Capri Sun together and talk about the good old days. This next game's hard, but mainly it's hard at the end. The last boss is really unfair. It changes up the gameplay from like a run around hack and slash game to a impossibly trolly rhythm game where it asks you to click buttons on a rhythm when you can't see what the rhythm is and you don't know what button to press, and the screen fades out and you think the game's over. It trolls you. That's really annoying. The rest of the game's not easy, but it's not super hard either. It's Drakengard 3 on the PlayStation 3. Now, I've never played Drakengard 1. I haven't played Drakengard 2. I played Drakengard 3, and I played the 2 Nier games, and I loved all 3 of them. So I think Drakengard 3 definitely maybe goes in the butt-puckered tier. Not at the bottom, but I think anybody could beat it if they put some extra time into it. This next game is a racing game, and it's very difficult when you play it by yourself, okay? But it's a time trial game, and it's about like beating the best record of the game, and the solo game wants you to like beat the developer's time, and that's already almost impossible. That playing it online with like the best people in the world, we're talking like, you know, top tier, you know, handful of gamers in the world. The game's Trackmania Turbo. I love Trackmania Turbo, but keeping up with the Joneses in this game is not something I'm willing to do. Solo, I think Trackmania Turbo is in the people won't believe you category. I think you can beat the game by getting like a gold medal on every track. That is definitely in that people won't believe you tier. If you're at the point where you're trying to like beat high scores online and stuff, that's definitely in that dedicate your life to it but still fail tier. I've never seen a community that is so cutthroat about trying to one-up each other. Keeping up with that, I don't know. I can't imagine that. It's in both. We'll say it's in between. So this next game is one of the most famous games of all time. I believe it's still the top-selling PC game ever made. They made us play it in school. I didn't mind doing that. I liked playing it at school, but nobody ever made any progress in it. But I do know some people out there are really good at adventure games. I'm not. The game is Myst. Everybody's heard of Myst. It is squarely in the I suck, but maybe you're good category, okay? I know tons of people out there have played tons of adventure games and they're just good. They just think that way. I don't think outside the box, okay? I'm the guy that builds the box to hold you in. That's who I am. I'm the guy that builds the box and I make the rules. I'm not good about breaking the rules. I'm good about making rules that can't be broken. That lets you know anything about old RNG here. I had several people tell me this next game was one of the hardest games they ever played and that like it was practically impossible. So I downloaded it on Steam and then beat it on my laptop during a layover at an airport in like one sitting. It's VVVVV. It's just a platforming game where you flip gravity and you just go through these series of different challenges and explore around this map by flipping gravity and using a bunch of different mechanics that deal with inverting the screen upside down, basically. I thought it was a really charming and fun game, and I loved VVVVV, but it's not that bad. It's definitely in that butt-puckering but possible category. I think anybody could beat this. It's not that long. It's so simple, there's nothing to really confuse you. And I think the game has something really cool to say, so More power to VVVVVVVVV, whatever it is. I think it's 5 Vs, or is it 6 Vs? This next game is another kind of racing game. It's more of a mountaineering game. You've heard of Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy, that crazy game where you're just like trying to make your way up a mountain of assets by being a man sitting in a cauldron swinging a sledgehammer. This is the precursor to that game, and it's Trials Fusion. Now, you could put any of the Trials games here, but basically Trials is a motorcycle platforming game, and you would think it would be about doing big jumps and flips and stuff, and you do some of that, but mainly it's these like small bunny hopping sort of challenges where you have to feather the throttle and the brake and lean forward and lean back and balance and try to get up these inclines and stuff. It's very, 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 very challenging. It's very hard, and I just don't think the average person out there's got it in them to beat a Trials game. It is a trial. I mean, it's in the title, right? It is squarely in the people won't believe you category. I remember the first time I ever played Trials was during a party and had a bunch of people come over, and we were loving the first few levels, and then we all got stuck like 25 or 30 minutes into the game and couldn't beat the level. And I just kept playing it for like the next month after they all left, and I finally beat it. And when I told them, they like didn't believe me. I remember having to boot up my Xbox 360 and showing them the cleared file, and they're like, no way. So how else could it fit into any of these other categories, right? People won't believe you. This next game is a tactical, it's not an RPG, it's just a tactics roguelite. Yeah, it's a roguelite. It is very methodical. It gives you all the information you need to do it. It doesn't trick you, it's not unfair, and there's really no time limit. You just have to play with perfection, and you just need to slow down and really think. It's Into the Breach. Into the Breach is ultra meticulous in its mechanics. Once you get those down, you can kind of cheese the game a lot of the time, or beat it down into submission so much that it doesn't have a chance. It can ramp it up when you change the different teams you use in this game, and some of them are downright practically impossible. But just playing with the main teams and the starting squad that you begin with, it's not that bad. I think anybody could get used to it in just a few hours and blow right through the game. So it's in the butt puckered but possible category. It is going to take some effort on behalf of the player, or on part of the player, not on behalf. That'd be like, I put in the effort for you and beat the game for you. On part of the player, in part of the player, part of the player, part of the player, part of the player has to put in some effort. Not all of the player, just part. The pinky, the collarbone, the duodenum, those are essential. Those parts of your body really need to put in the time to beat Into the Breach. If you know what the duodenum is, put it in the comments down below. And while you're down there, why don't you do that for me? Subscribe to the channel if I've earned it. Leave any other comment you want. Give me a like. That's the best way to help me with the YouTube algorithm. This next game's the one I've been looking forward to talking about. When I covered it in the video, I said it was made by Konami. I misspoke. It's made by Irem, the same people that make R-Type. This is a Castlevania ripoff. And let me tell you, it surpasses Castlevania in every way in terms of difficulty. This may be the hardest NES game. The console, known for having hard games. A speedrunner on Good Games Done Quick said that this game was the game that Battletoads wanted to be when it grew up. And it's Holy Diver. Holy Diver is unbelievably difficult. It is so hard. You have so many magic spells you need to use at exactly the right time. You need to be perfect at platforming. You need to have frame perfect attacks. There are spots where you have to like jump, turn around midair, hit select, open your menu, select fireball, hit select to jump out, tap B to shoot the fireball, then hit select while still, before hitting the ground, to like freeze the lava below you. I mean, it's just unbelievably difficult. You cannot imagine it unless you play it. And it's hard to play it because it was only released in Japan. Unless you got the special, was it not IMA bit, retro bit version of it they released here. I love that version because it has an easy mode. And and even the easy mode is like twice as hard as Castlevania. But watch some videos of some people speed running Holy Diver. The end of that game will blow you away. I'm just telling you, you haven't ever seen anything like it. It's definitely in the devote your life to it, but will still fail trying category, without a doubt. Like I said, it might be the hardest Nintendo game. And the last game is, I said there were no more shoot 'em ups. This is kind of a shoot 'em up. It's a shoot 'em up puzzle game that's slow paced mixed with a platformer. It's Velocity 2X. I just couldn't get into this one because I'm a bad multitasker, and I tried playing this game twice. Truth is, I just didn't like it, and I mainly got frustrated with it, but so many people can just beat this game and no issues whatsoever. It's squarely in the I suck, but you probably don't category. It's the easiest of everything on this list, by far, by far. I shouldn't have even put it in that video. I was just like grabbing every hard game I could think of, and that it made it in there because I was angry with it more than it was really difficult. If you made it this far, I really appreciate it. Like I said, do those things I mentioned before. They are the best way to help with the channel, but if you want to do a little bit more, in the description down below is a link to join as a channel member or a Patreon supporter. For as little as 99 cents a month, you get access to the videos early, you get access to member exclusive videos. There's all kinds of different things you can do. You can see the channel members and Patreon supporters on the screen right now. Thank you so much, guys. I couldn't do this without you. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video. It was suggested by Mort from Mort's Garage that I make this, so I'm doing it at his behest. I appreciate every one of you guys, and I will catch you next time.